New updates on our rain totals, snow totals with major holiday travel impacts from an atmospheric river heading in from the Pacific. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods. Let's get right to it. Put this into two categories here so you can start to see how this is all going to unfold. First timeline we're going to look at is Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. The valley starts to see heavier rain, windy conditions, and thunderstorms. The Sierra will also have lowering snow levels. A lot of varying conditions in the Sierra. Now, once we get into that Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, it's solid snow in the Sierra. Major travel impacts will once again be following some windy weather in the valley, heavy to moderate rain. So the rain scales back just a little bit. Christmas Eve into Christmas Day for the valley. Still tons of accumulated rainfall, though, coming in from this big pipeline of moisture in the Pacific. And that's what's going to have the accumulated impacts by the time we get into that big holiday 24, 48-hour time frame where folks are just heading out and about. Bigger travel likely a little bit earlier than that just to get ahead of some of the weather conditions also to make it to your destination. So there's a lot of impacts to unpack here. First of all, let's talk about the flood alert. That will be in effect until Friday of next week. Rock slides, mudslides possible, river rises, as well as low-lying flooding. Creeks, streams, all getting very swollen, potentially overflowing their banks. This obviously includes not only some morning commutes, but also big holiday travel. Watch out for those roadways, likely very dangerous. That being true as well for the high country. Our winter storm watch in effect Tuesday of next week through Friday with heavy snow above 5,500 feet. That includes gusty winds. Travel is discouraged, near whiteout conditions in some places. Very possibly they'll have to close some of those roadways temporarily due to spinouts, and you know how it is in the Sierra. Anything goes. Just be prepared for the potential of some big delays in the high country before you make it up and over many of the passes. Now, we desperately need the snow. It is probably understated how dry it is right now. NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, saying basically it is a snow drought in the Sierra. This is great news for the ski resorts and all the water content that we need, just not great timing. All of these red dots basically indicate some of the lowest averages that we've seen 1991 to 2020 medians in the Tahoe Basin. Let me go ahead and zoom it into the specific location. This is going to be the Central Sierra Snow Lab. What's pointed out here is our minimum in the red, and then everything else is kind of in the average category in the green. Obviously, as you scale up, that's going to be some of the highest snowpack that we've ever seen. But this year is in the black, and we're below that minimum. So this is some of the lowest snowpack that we have on record at that location. But it's a long season. State climatologist Michael Anderson noting that one or two atmospheric rivers can make big dents in the drastic snow drought that we have up in the high country. Let me go ahead and illustrate what that looks like. We were up there in the high country, folks trying to get some skiing and snowboarding in, despite the fact we have what we call mothy conditions with rocks exposed and kind of muddy on the sides of everything. But nonetheless, folks are trying to get in that skiing and snowboarding before the season comes to an end. But also, it is a long season. Look at some of our major reservoir supply levels. The reason that snowpack's so critical, it is a third of California's water portfolio. It's a great way to store that water when it comes in as frozen accumulation and then slowly meters out into our reservoirs, filling them for when we have the greatest need of water during the dry season, and we can send it down south. Reservoirs are looking really good. Plenty of capacity. I will note Folsom is actually releasing some water and going to continue to increase that. Out of these reservoirs that you're looking at right here, that is by far much, much smaller. Shasta, our biggest reservoir in the state, gonna get hit really well with a lot of precipitation. New Melones, Don Pedro, San Luis, Millerton, as we make our way through this central part of the state, also above average and right about 60 to 75% capacity. Okay, let me just go ahead and show you how those reservoirs naturally fill. Right now, we're at some of the lowest points on average for many of the reservoirs. So really start to empty things out here December, January as they make way for flood control and also holding some of that water. And it's a very delicate balance that water managers have to go through during the year, holding enough water in for the dry season, letting enough out to make way for all the snow melt, plus anything coming down the hill. This is a particularly interesting storm cycle because it initially starts off warm, meaning we're going to get a lot of water flowing down the hill. So right now, Folsom Lake, again, capacities below 1 million acre feet, whereas some of the northern reservoirs are well above 1-2 million acre feet. A lot more capacity. They can have a little bit more flexibility in holding that water. But I wanted to showcase Folsom right now because they are going to be doing those releases. As you can see, we're well below capacity here, but we have yet to even head into the time frame where we really start to rapidly fill that reservoir. We've seen times past where that reservoir starts to fill super fast and water's gushing out of every part that they can release water from just to make way so that places downstream, aka Sacramento and all the metropolitan areas, don't get flooded out because that Folsom Lake is right up the hill here. Here's Highway 50 kind of running along Sacramento and Placerville. It's just in between there. So they really have to be very careful not to get that too full. Let's play it out. And here's why I mentioned this, because a lot of the initial part of the precipitation comes in the form of rain. That snow level is really struggling with the first part of this weather system. Take a look at this, folks. Right through the Tahoe Basin, Saturday evening, it is all rain throughout the Tahoe Basin. Snow at some of the higher peaks, once you get to places like Mammoth and the Central Sierra, has much higher peaks than, say, the Tahoe Basin. For the Central Valley, it's all about the rain. No surprise there. We rarely see snow in the Central Valley. So rain in the lower elevations, rain in the upper elevations, everything up must come down. And that means we've got a lot of pressure on some of the smaller waterways in the Central Valley. And that's something that we'll be looking at. All right, let's look at Sunday. We're right back at it. Only high elevation snow and rain throughout the Sierra. And at that point, that's when we start to get those higher precipitation totals going up. This is heavier rain, some embedded thunderstorms in there. We're in kind of that heavy to moderate rain zone in the foothills and the Sierra. And again, everything up is going to come down. We're already looking at rain in the valley, and that's why we have really the key factor here for that weather impact alert Sunday through Tuesday because of heavier rain coming in on Sunday. Very little break. We'll get a little pocket in there Sunday evening. But again, we're just looking at so much high elevation snow and more rain. We're going to have to watch that Truckee River as well to see what happens there. Right in the bullnose of this excessive rainfall forecast through Saturday. You can see we're in that slight risk zone throughout the metropolitan capital region. Outside of that, marginal risk for parts of the Sierra, but that's enough to put us on alert, certainly. One place that we're looking at, Cosumnes River at Michigan Bar, you can see it's pretty low, but as we head through the cycle of this storm, it's going to hit some monitoring stages. Other places along the Sacramento River that feed downstream towards Sacramento, Tisdale, Colusa Weir, coming up quite a bit. And so you're going to see rises if you're in and around the Sacramento downtown area. Perhaps you're over by Tower Bridge or I Street Bridge. You're going to see those water levels go up on the Sacramento River. Also keep in mind, Sacramento is the confluence of the American River coming in from up the hill out of Folsom Lake, and also the Sacramento River coming all the way from Shasta at the headwaters down into the capital region. And that's why I say we have to be very aware of our flood risk throughout the storm cycle. Make sure those storm drains are clear all the time. We still have some leaves left over that have been accumulating near those storm drains. Travel, carry chains and emergency kits. Tires, check that pressure and tread. That can really help with spinouts and just preventing slipping and sliding in these sloppy conditions. Plan ahead. May want to reconsider outdoor activities temporarily. I know a lot of folks want to hit the slopes, especially after this dry season, but really best to scale back, make sure it's safe to get up there to do so. I would say if you could get up there out ahead of the storm, maybe Monday or Tuesday, it's still going to be messy, but you're not going to be chaining up at about 5,000 feet as you will later in the week. So if you have a place to stay, you just want to kind of hunker down and wait it out until the slopes are open and they don't have any wind holds on the ski resorts, that's probably the best bet. As far as our future wind gusts, so it's not going to be windy the entire time we go through this cycle of storms. We'll see periods of gusty winds Sunday into Monday. But now I want to show you the time frame that I'm really looking at for the strongest winds, and that is our Tuesday afternoon, evening, and early Wednesday forecast. This is when our wind gusts really start to ramp up. There's a reason why. That's about the time frame that bigger cold push comes through. That'll help to bring down the snow level, but it will also be a clash of two air masses that are completely different. We stop pulling in so much of the tropical air, and we have a bigger plunge of some cooler air coming in from the Pacific Northwest. So that's really going to be the time frame that potentially some overnight winds could mean some power outages, trees that are vulnerable, maybe collapsing or branches down. Things to watch out for. Again, this is a little early in the game, but that's how things are playing out right now. As I mentioned, we really need the snow. When you take a look at the snow water equivalent, 4% of an average for the Northern Sierra. Central Sierra, we're at 12%. Southern Sierra, 40% of where we should be right now. That puts our statewide average at 17%. It is going to look dramatically different by the time we get into the end of next week and beyond. We also need the precipitation after a soggy November, which, by the way, started us off with great numbers. In fact, many places in Southern California well above average, even through Stockton, Modesto, and Sacramento above average. We're now starting to see those deficits grow throughout extreme Northern California. Good to get some rain and snow, bad for the timing. But this is all part of building our water year. This is the time we get 50% of our annual precipitation, December, January, February. Peak snowpack doesn't hit until the end of March, beginning of April. So there's still plenty of time to build that natural reservoir of water before we start to see that snow melt happening and water is at its highest demand. We got a great start, hit a big pause, but now we're starting to ramp up once again. Weather Prediction Center also saying in that 3 to 7 day time frame, we are going to be under that risk of heavy precipitation, heavy snow as well throughout the Sierra, but that comes later again in that cycle of storms. Not until Monday night, Tuesday, even into Wednesday do we start to see that snow line dropping. When it does, look at these numbers. We're talking 74 plus inches of snow at Donner Pass, over 100 plus inches of snow at Sonora Pass. Rain totals, this is about 6 to 10 inches up and down the Central Valley, 8 to 10 inches for San Francisco. And I will tell you, no matter where you go throughout California, this line of storms is going to hit. Sunday, it's mainly a Northern California storm, roughly to about Fresno. That's going to be about it, with the heaviest rain actually right here along the North Bay area and up towards Mendocino. Once we get into later in the day, it starts to slide its way southward, but it's still not really reaching Los Angeles and San Diego. We're still mainly looking at the Central Valley. And by Monday afternoon, we're starting to see glimpses of that snow turning over. That's a day that if you're headed up to the high country, bring the chains, be prepared for changing conditions. And then we get, again, another pulse of this moisture coming through. Now, that is actually going to lift that snow line a little bit temporarily, but it does come crashing down as that cold front starts to move through. So you can see how now we're looking at basically snow by 6 p.m. solidly in the Tahoe Basin along 395 through the Central Sierra, even into the Southern Sierra. That's a good snowpack that's going to be building, but it also means dangerous driving conditions. Wednesday also, Christmas Eve, big travel issues. Look at this. We've got rain all the way into Southern California by that point. It continues into Christmas Day. There's not much break. Southern California, Northern California in on the action, and a bigger push of colder air comes in. That drops that snow level even more. So we're going to be chaining up way down the hill by Christmas Day. And that will continue into our Friday before we start to see some glimpses of a bigger break coming in for the following weekend. That may be the escape day to finally say, okay, everybody out back home, because it hasn't been safe to do so. And we're in a likely warmer weather pattern right through the beginning of the new year, and likely wetter as well. So it's very likely that this storm cycle is going to continue in our forecast. Now, if we just talk numbers here, we're going to be looking at highs starting off right around 50 for the weekend forecast, and you'll see how they're going to start to plummet really. 50s along the coast and through the valley, we're in the 50s. That gives a real clear indication. If we've got 50s or at least near 50s, 50 for the Tahoe Basin. It's going to be a rain event, and that continues into Sunday. It's not until we get to that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe that the temperatures start to drop. For the foothills, it's pretty steady. We've got 50s, cooler certainly by Wednesday after that cold front rips on through. And for the coast, we'll have highs steadily in the 50s, but the coolest day being that Wednesday outlook. And we stay there through Thursday as well. That's what helps to keep that snow line down. Weather impact alert Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. We'll continue to keep an eye on that Friday forecast, see if we have to extend it just because of the lingering impacts from all of the wet weather and a potential for some light showers on Saturday. Mostly, though, a big cold air blast comes in by the time we kick off the new year.